It's a miracle and a monster at the same time. AI has been called the greatest invention of all time and the last. Which side is right? And more importantly, which side are you on? I think that AI is being treated differently. Normally, we don't debate the things that we invent because we're having a fundamental psychological reaction to it, which is that even if it tells you over and over again, it's not a person, it's not a conscious being, it feels like one, and that can be creepy. So, no question. And there are strong arguments that it's going to make us all unemployed, which, could either result in an Illuminati style population reduction program or universal basic income. I don't know. But essentially, when we invented the internal combustion engine, we started putting locomotives all over the place. That was progress. But now, with this thing that talks back to you, it's weird and we're freaked out. And it's a good thing that we're having a debate. Among the debate aspects is that there's no way to use AI ethically. And there's a point to that. But I got bad news for you. Tons of stuff is impossible to use ethically, including this right now. Most of my views come on cell phones. So every single one of those cell phones contains substances in it, rare earths, which are being mined by in China. There's no ethical source for a lot of that stuff. Do you like chocolate? Well, some huge portion of chocolate is being harvested by child slaves in Africa. So every time you eat your favorite delicious chocolatey delight, you are supporting child slavery in Africa. Yeah, it's a tough world. There's no escaping this. So, to an extent, there's no ethical way to use AI. Like, I will cede you that. But if you're going to have that argument that we should all stop using AI, everybody using AI is a secret Nazi, um, we have to face all of the other things that we do, which are utterly unethical, including the three homeless people you stepped over while you were looking at your phone going down the street, the phone itself, the carbon economy, everything. Let's look back at a invention that was more enthusiastically greeted and yet had huge, I would argue, deleterious effects on human culture. The phonograph uh, made listening to things people had made much easier to do, and people loved it. People used to flock to theaters. A guy traveled around with a phonograph, and he had I think it was a wax cylinder because they didn't have records back then, and cranked it, and it was like a dog barking, and people in the audience went, "Oh my God!" These hicks. And eventually, of course, music wound up on the phonograph. And one of the effects of that was that people stopped learning how to sing, and learning to play a musical instrument was not important anymore. We stopped singing to each other. We stopped playing musical instruments to each other, in part because what you could get from a phonograph record, and that's, continued into the music industry we have today, on your best night at karaoke, you're just not going to be as good as Taylor Swift or Frank Sinatra or whoever. Um, and that's a huge effect. I don't think you can argue that isn't a big deal, and that nowadays, I mean, if I broke out singing right now, this uh, video would get even less views than my channel usually does because it's cringe, right? Karaoke is like, at least in a lot of places, not for everybody, but karaoke is like the most cringe thing you can do with your time. And hey, somebody told me, like, oh, I'm really into karaoke. I'm gonna, I'll try not to be judgmental. I'll be polite, but yeah, okay, probably not going to join you for that. I will tell you one group of folks who's probably not going to stop using AI, and we should all be grateful for that, which are people in science and medicine. I can tell you one way. Initially, of course, academia in particular was very wary of AI. And don't get me wrong, it's being used unethically all over the place. Maybe you remember I think it was a Chinese study with the rat with the, schlong, like twice its body length, and obviously fake paper. RFK, I think, is doing a lot of stuff on AI because he keeps referencing papers that don't exist. And that's one thing we know about AI is it will generate fake citations. There's only a few AIs that I have used that are actually good at looking up real papers. One is not getting paid for this, but Liner AI and another one called Research Rabbit, which I'm working on my PhD and mainly focused on conflict science. And in a lot of cases, I have to bring really disparate ideas together and make an argument. And I learned about Research Rabbit. I've only just started playing with this, but it does two very interesting things. One, it will take a paper or a list of papers that you have and show them in relationship to other papers you haven't seen yet and in relationship to papers that you've put in the list. And it creates maps. And one thing I did, I can't remember exactly what the paper was about, but I had a bunch of papers on this side of an argument, and then I had a bunch of papers on this side of an argument. And when it showed the map, largely they were separate, and I was making arguments about relationships between them. But Research Rabbit also took one paper and drew this big line across the empty void in the middle of the map and said, hey, it connects to this paper over here, and that paper connects to all of these papers. I ain't giving that up. No way you can pry my AI from my cold, dead hand. That saves so much time. I actually did used to have to do research when I was in academia long, long time ago in my brief stint in my 20s and studying largely environmental science and having to do these, hours and hours of just sort of brute force research. Back then, you could put the same query into even a really good search engine that was designed to look through a library's materials and get different answers each time. And it could take a long, long time. I remember I was studying urticaria, which is a disease you get when you get a spider hair in your eye, which is just as horrifying as it sounds. It took me hours just to find one paper on the subject. With Liner AI, I could find dozens of papers in a minute. With Research Rabbit, I could see how that paper connects to all kinds of other things. And when, your sweet ass is online, maybe, human doctors screw up too. Maybe you're like, give me AI. That guy used AI for a thumbnail, so I never want to talk to him again. But what do you mean I have cancer? Is there an AI that can tell me exactly which medicine will work with my genetic profile? Here's a thing within psychology that is a huge, huge problem, which is that matching people to psychoactive medications where the side effects are well tolerated and they can be rough, sweating, drooling, uh, loss of energy. So imagine if you could just go into AI, maybe do a genetic profile, maybe a psych profile, and AI could say, in addition to the main medications you're thinking about, here's even a few off brand that have worked in other cases. Like this one's really just for sciatica pain, but it also has an effect to reduce anxiety. I take something like that because I had a very, very smart doctor who, after I have sciatica, but they gave it free me this medicine for that. And after a while, I was like, I'm sort of like calmer too, more with it, and I can take this at work without being put to sleep or getting dopey or anything like that. So the debate is good, but Here's the thing. The cat's out of the bag. And I actually hate the term normies because I think it's inherently derogatory, and it's intended to be. I just don't think that, even though people like, especially graphic designers, are losing their jobs because of AI, other fields, probably paralegals, are going to be winnowed down. All the ones who are left are going to be insanely productive because you have no idea. I had to do this as part of my master's program, how tedious a process it is to look up case law. And that's why, there's so many dramas of somebody like all night in a library full of case law books. And I found, Buck v. Bell in 1943. It's exactly perfect for our case. Well, maybe that underpaid paralegal could go home and have dinner with her kids if she could ask AI that. So I get it. It's a disconcerting thing. We're having a debate about it, which is good. I will definitely not tell you that AI won't lead to something horrible, because it almost certainly will. We're going to have, I mean, the same way everything else about our society has resulted in horrible events. Anything human at sufficient scale will contain instances of injustice and horror. And I'm not being fatalistic about that. I'm saying we need to be ready and watch out and be prepared to respond when it happens. Again, I think the cat's out of the bag. And I don't think we're going back. And I think for the most part, people will not want to go back. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I got more of these coming. I will see you soon. I've got a new course coming out, hopefully next week.